could start this video by saying something funny like, get over here and subscribe, but eh. Well, that was a movie. Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm giving my first thoughts on Mortal Kombat 2021. This isn't directly related to the 90s films. It is a reboot, not a sequel, but it is connected by the fact that it is a remake of the same source material, being the Mortal Kombat video games. Now, before I get into this too deep, I do want to point out two things, and that one, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to Mortal Kombat lore, so this is all just my opinion based on my limited knowledge of having seen some of the movies and a bunch of Googling while watching this one. And then also two spoilers. I'm going to get into the plot of this movie, what little there is if you go into a movie about people ripping out each other's spines for the plot of it, and you don't want anything spoiled, then click away now, go watch it, come back and we can talk about it then. It's on HBO Max too, by the way. It's in theaters as well, but I watched it on HBO Max, and so far this has divided a lot of people. Obviously, critics don't like it, but that was to be expected. But audience members as well are divided on how they feel about it. For those of you who don't know, the plot of this is you've got two different worlds who are competing in a tournament. What happens is you get the champions from each world to fight to the death, and whoever wins then wins that round of the tournament, and you fight until you win 10 rounds, and then whoever wins 10 rounds first gets to own and invade the other world and take it over. The bad guys have won 9 rounds in a row. The good guys haven't won any yet because the good guys, I guess they just suck or whatever. So now that's where this one takes place, is the good guys need to win or they're done. I went into this expecting a typical video game movie. There aren't really any good video game movies, except for like Detective Pikachu. It's just not really a thing that happens. Most video game movies, including the original Mortal Kombat movies, are considered horrible for good reason. The original Mortal Kombat movies are guilty pleasures of a lot of people because they're bombastic, they're stupid, they're over the top, and they're really cringy in a lot of ways, and it makes it fun, it makes it silly. And that's fitting for a movie based on a video game that is as ridiculous and over the top as Mortal Kombat. I was hoping it would be a little bit better, but also expecting it really to just be silly and just, you know, punches, a lot of decapitations, a lot of people being torn in half, stuff like that. And we definitely did get some of that. This movie just surprisingly had a lack of fighting for a movie based on Mortal Kombat. It did start out with a fight scene. You had Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, and that was fun, it was ridiculous, it was over the top. And at the end of the movie, there was a lot of fighting that was ridiculous and fun and over the top. But in the middle, there was some fighting here or there, but none of it was that fun, and there was just a lot of dead air, a lot of bad exposition and character development. It almost felt like, for a long stretch of it in the middle there, that it was like Fast and Furious does their impression of Mortal Kombat, because there was fighting here and there, just like there's stupid over-the-top action in, you know, Fast and Furious, but it felt like it was just trying too hard to, you know, develop characters that were as lifeless as a plank of wood, or a rock, or a Vin Diesel. Why are you trying to develop this and explain this plot when you're not explaining it well and you're not developing it well? Just give up and just crunch some people's heads. Now, I'm not saying that this is a worse movie than the 95 one. In fact, I would say that it is definitely better than the 95 one. But I think part of why so many people that do like the 95 one like the 95 one is that it isn't good. It is campy, it is ridiculous, and it fully commits to that. This only puts one foot into that, and it's trying to keep another foot in trying to make a good movie. There's a lot of things that you can nitpick and tear apart about this movie. I'm not really trying to do that because this is a video game movie. The things that are bad about it are the things that make it entertaining. It's ridiculous, it's stupid, it's silly. So I'm not going to nitpick all of the things that don't make sense because we'd be here all day. The plot makes no sense. The storyline is barely explained. It's just so many stupid things about this that, honestly, the 95 one did a lot better job explaining the world behind it than the reason that they're fighting and stuff. Like, I felt like I understood the 95 one more than this one, which is, woo, that's saying a lot. It also just confused me that this one, it makes the main character a new character, somebody we've never met before. And I guess I kind of understand why they would do that, because they don't want to be partial toward any of the fighters in the video game. They want to make it so that no matter who your favorite fighter is, you're all rooting for the same person to an extent, because he's this new character who's obviously the good guy, and they go out of their way trying to make him relatable and interesting, but it doesn't work. He doesn't have any depth to him, and he doesn't have any interesting defining features about him, so you're like, I just want to see the people punch each other and cut each other's heads off and rip each other in half. That's what I want to see. I don't really care about this character, because none of the fighters in this movie, other than maybe Scorpion and Sub-Zero, have any depth or development at all to them. And even to say that they have depth and development is a bit of a reach, because they don't really. The only thing we know about them is that they fought before and now they're fighting again at the end of the movie, because Sub-Zero is now trying to kill his great grandson or whatever, and apparently Scorpion went to hell and came back. I guess that was in the video game. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the lore behind this, but that's what happens. Is Scorpion got killed, he went to hell, learned how to harness hellfire, and came back, and that's how he can control fire. And now he's going against Sub-Zero, who can control ice, and then they're just fighting. And although the end fight is entertaining, maybe the best fight of the film, in the background you have this main character whose family has been frozen by Sub-Zero, and his reaction to this is to punch the ice. He attempts to punch his family out of the ice. This would be stupid and weird, but it's happening in between shots of the main and best fight of the movie, and it just feels distracting and pointless and just goofy. They do pile a lot of fighting into the back end of this movie, but because they do it, they kind of rush it, and it's like, if you had put these different fights in different parts of the movie, it would have been a lot more entertaining. They have several fights throughout this movie that are there for the sole purpose of creating the characters. Like, you have Jax get his arms ripped off because in the video game he's got robotic arms, and then you've got this other guy, he gets his face sliced, and then it's just all this stuff is just there to develop them into the characters that we know in the video game. So it's interesting because they decided to add some depth and some backstory to these people so we know who they are and why they are the way they are to an extent. But these fights weren't entertaining. And then when we do get to the big interesting fights near the end, we rush through half of them. We're getting all this hype up that the bad guys are so much better than the good guys. They're so much better. The good guys suck. They're idiots. They're not very good at anything. And so what they do is they separate each one of the bad guys individually to fight them. And so you're like, okay, so you get 6-on-1. There. The good guys can win when they go 6-on-1. No, they just go 1-on-1. Because even though they can't, 6 of them can't beat 6 of them, but one of them can beat one of them every time. That doesn't really make sense. But like I said, if I wanted to, I could nitpick this movie to death. That's not really the point. This movie's stupid, I think on purpose. The parts that are wrong with this movie are the parts that are boring because they're trying too hard to be good. And there's a lot of boring moments in this movie. Like, you probably could have cut out an hour. You probably could have, but at least half an hour. You definitely could have made this shorter. All that to say, you do have to rate this movie according to a proper scale. This isn't a normal movie. This is a video game movie, and video game movies suck. And as far as video game movies go, this is honestly one of the better ones I've ever seen. I know we've had Detective Pikachu not that long ago, and that was actually a legitimately good video game movie for the first time ever, as far as I'm concerned. That was the first time a video game movie was good. We don't really get those. And as far as the rest of the universe goes of video game movies, this is one of the best ones I've seen. So there will be an audience for this, I'm sure. There will be people who want to see people getting ripped in half, and they will see that. Me personally, going to this, I was a little disappointed by the lack of it. But what was given was entertaining, so I just wish there was more of it. But I think people will still be satisfied by it, at least a certain audience. Maybe just as many or more people will be disappointed and revert back to the 90s one, though, because that one was goofy and that one was silly. You don't get as much of the over-the-top violence because you don't really have the special effects to compete with this one. Not that the special effects are good, but, I mean, that didn't stop them from trying. The graphics in this movie were about as good as the graphics in the video game. Like, it's not great. I wonder if it was designed by the same people, because it looked pretty similar. Like, the blood looked the same as it does in a video game. And if you think, oh, that's lame, yeah, That's what you should expect. I still think, like I said, there is an audience for it. I just don't think that it's as bad or as good as it could have been. There was also some fun fan service in this movie. There was little jokes and nod toward things from the video game and different backstories that was interesting. Like, you've got a button mash situation where this one character keeps going for a down attack, a leg attack, and it's kind of funny because it works in the story, but it's also an obvious nod to playing the video game where that's what you do when you're toying with an opponent that isn't as good as you. There's also another interesting thing where the Sonya character isn't part of the official group when the movie first starts, and then she later gets the mark that makes her part of the group and gets her superpower and everything. And this is also a nod toward the fact that she wasn't originally going to be in the video game, but as a last second addition, the creators put her into the game because they felt that they needed a female character. So even though it feels a bit goofy in this, it's because it was kind of a goofy process adding her into the video game, so it's a goofy process having her be in the movie, and I thought that was fitting, and I liked things like that in this movie. Some things that kind of confused me though, and forgive me if I just don't understand the lore here, is it didn't really seem like this was true to the Mortal Kombat story to me. Like, you're supposed to have these fights, this tournament, and it doesn't take place in a tournament. It's all pre-tournament, and then these characters that I thought were important, at least characters like Sub-Zero, are now dead before the tournament even takes place in the supposed sequels that we're getting. Maybe it's because he's going to be reincarnated, or there's going to be some other person to take his mantle. I don't really know the backstory, so I don't understand that. But it just seemed weird that this is supposedly all leading up to this tournament that they're talking about, and then there is no tournament, and the big bad guy from this one isn't even supposedly going to come back for that tournament. Seems kind of weird, but I don't know. The biggest flaw really is there just should have been more fights. Like, it's Mortal Kombat. Just throw some more fights in there. There was a lot of fighting. There was. But I just thought there would be more in a Mortal Kombat movie. If they really wanted to make a good Mortal Kombat movie, maybe they should get somebody more experienced than the people they got. The people they got, they've done nothing. Like, how could you expect them to make a good movie? They were doomed from the start. I don't know, maybe he has no interest, but like, why not get somebody like Zack Snyder to make a Mortal Kombat movie? That would probably be really good. He's got a lot of experience with stupid over-the-top action and slow-mo and stuff. He could make something entertaining out of this plot, I'm sure. That's what I had to think. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.